Eagles at the Cowboys, Bills at the Chiefs, Seahawks at the 49ers. Justin Jefferson makes his return. Broncos at the Chargers. And, of course, we've got a hobbled Trevor Lawrence. We've got Browning versus Minshew. We've got Stroud versus Wilson in the rain. Mayfield versus Ritter. You got the Panthers versus the Saints with no Taysom Hill. We got all your NFL props we're going to break down. Welcome to the Road to Millions, everybody. Andy, Corbin, and Steve from WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. We're going to get you ready. And as you know, we always do. Positive vibes from the audience. Appreciate the Ezekiel Elliott prop from Thursday night. That one was crazy, how quickly Ezekiel Elliott hit that one. We talked about we talked about the home road splits, and Klay Thompson just keeps he might be the leader in the clubhouse now. Steve, it was DeMar DeRozan, but Klay is just certainly hitting his over on the road and going under at home. So
It's funny because I feel like it used to be reverse with him in the
it was
past. I feel
absolutely
like
reversed.
yeah, oh yeah, for
Absolutely
sure. Yeah,
reversed.
I thought so.
Real quick, guys, we always do a weather, and there are two games that we really need to focus on with the weather. The first is the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. It's just going to be wet. It's not going to rain consistently the whole game, but it's just going to be off and on downpours. Little bit windy. It's like sustained 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, but gusts over 30 miles an hour. So just an ugly, wet New York type of game. But then the worst one is definitely the Rams at the Ravens. Wind's not as bad, but rain the whole game. It's just going to be nonstop rain. So we'll talk about how to do some of the props in this one. And it doesn't even look like it's going to be rain, like heavy rain. Like could be just an absolutely ugly, disgusting, sloppy game. Other games, the good news, Detroit at Chicago. It looks like the Chicago weather has really cleared up. It's just a little bit of wind, nothing that I would worry about. Jacksonville and Cleveland, maybe a chance of rain, but nothing too bad. Winds have calmed down. Cincinnati, same thing. It should be dry. Winds have calmed down. And then Tennessee and Dolphins, winds have calmed down, and Packers and Giants, winds have calmed down. So we should have pretty decent weather for everything except that Houston and New York Jets and the Rams and the Ravens game. So those are going to be the ones that you need to keep your eye out on. And then let's go through injuries today because there are quite a few that popped up that I got to be honest, guys, I didn't really expect. The Geno Smith is the biggest one. They're saying he has a 2-week injury and they're going to test him out in warm-ups. So you're either going to get a very hobbled Geno Smith or Drew Lock. And I don't know, real quick, Steve, would you rather have a very hobbled Geno Smith or Drew Lock? If you're betting on the 49ers, who do you want?
I guess I would always go with the injured guy generally, but Gino is such a big upgrade over Locke that it's like yeah. If I'm on the 49ers, I'm going to go Gino, banged up Gino, and hopefully he maybe knock him out halfway through, and then you get a little bit of both, and you kind of get the worst of Gino essentially early in the game.
Yeah, so we're going to keep our eye on that one. I'm going to come back to the Jaguars and what I just absolutely cannot believe they're going to attempt to pull off. Breece Hall, questionable. Looks like he's going to play. Samaje Perine, questionable. He expects to play. Travis Etienne, no surprise, he's going to play. He played last week. Although, I will say, Corbin, we did cash on him on an alt line. They did not use him a whole lot last week.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think we're treading a little bit lightly with him this week, aren't we?
Yeah, he's on my avoid list, quite honestly. It was a really good matchup last week, and to see him only still just about get to what we had as an alt total, I can't imagine going back to him on an over this week. So,
fantasy owners of Zach Charbonnet, you got two pieces of bad news. A, he's dealing with a knee injury, and Kenneth Walker's back. Both are expected to play. Great. We have a split backfield and a game that is projected to be a blowout. Chris Olave is expected to play, but he is under the weather. He's sick. That could be a very interesting one in the Panthers game. Taysom Hill is out. That helps Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr, fantasy owners. And I think that's about it. But the biggest one, so the Jacksonville Jaguars are literally planning for Trevor Lawrence to start versus the Browns, which
crazy.
to me,
It's wild.
Okay. It is wild. I would also like to talk to you about their schedule here just real quick and how asinine this is. Okay, so they're 8-4. They play Cleveland and Baltimore. Those are tough games with Trevor Lawrence. Look who they play after this to end the season. Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee. Why wouldn't you just sit Trevor Lawrence for 2 games? Worst case scenario, you lose both of them and you're 8-6. But can't you run the table? With Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee, that gets you to 11 wins. That's a division title probably. So I don't know. I think this is crazy. I
Playing
think
with
this
fire.
is crazy. Yes, this is insane.
Yeah, I think you just laid out the perfect game plan right there. That's exactly what I would do. Is those are 2 brutal defenses too. He could get hurt even further, especially Baltimore and Cleveland. Yeah, you hope you can maybe split without him out there, right? And then you win the last 3, and you're in great spot to win the division, like you said.
Yeah, I get being tough and everything, but man, sit him for 2 weeks, and if you split, that's a win. If you get a split with Cleveland and Baltimore, so I think they're crazy, to be honest.
I thought it was crazy enough that they didn't cart him off the field. They made him hobble all the way into the back, and now they're going one better and trying to make him play as well.
Yeah, get out there and play, Trevor. Yeah, they didn't even have a trainer. It was just a just a security guard. So, all right, guys. Well, let's get into all of the props here. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up and tell us your best bet for today, guys. Want to know what you're thinking. And well, real quick, we'll tell everyone what we have up. We have a NFL 5% best bet that is up right now. I'm assuming most of you have it by now. If not, go ahead and get it. We cashed the Army team total over yesterday. It makes a 23-2 football run. That's not bad. I was crunching the numbers, and 23-2 is not too bad. So we're really happy with that one. Steve, what do you have up at Sports Memo?
I also have a 5% play available right now over at Sports Memo. It comes with 3 additional player props, and I'm 30-19 on those over the last 2 seasons. So you can pick that up over at Sports Memo.
Nice. All right, let's get into the props. We always start with the passing props. So, we'll start with passing touchdowns. Got to be honest, guys. Jake Browning at plus 105 to throw 2 touchdowns against my Colts. I think that game's a sneaky shootout. I think that
I could see that.
Yeah, the total's 44. The Bengals aren't stopping anybody. The Colts are certainly not stopping anybody. The game against Tennessee was 28. It went overtime. It was like 28-31 in that one. So, I don't know. Can I interest you in any touchdown props for Gardner Minshew, Jake Browning, Steve?
Yeah, that's a pass for me on that one.
Damn it. I thought I was going to get some action on that one. Corbin, do you have any touchdown props passing-wise?
I don't, but off the top of my head, I'm sure the obvious ones are obviously going to be Dak and probably going back to Purdy again. I'm not sure what their line or odds are at, but
I think
2.5. That sounds great to me.
Steve, plus 150?
I thought you were asking for just that game in particular, because I have Dak as well at plus 150 at 2.5. I mean, you got to like it. He's done it in 5 of 12 games this season. He did it against the Eagles. And the Eagles have allowed 5 quarterbacks to throw 3+ at plus money. It's a solid. It's worth a sprinkle in my opinion.
I agree. I also got to tell you, I don't think that Jalen Hurts to throw 2 touchdowns is that bad either. I mean, I think that game's a shootout. Like I think they're going to be throwing here. So,
what's Purdy at?
Purdy, do they?
One
Oh,
and a
it's
half.
just up a bit.
Brock Purdy minus 150. I mean, and
I still like it, but
I do too. I mean, I guess the trick is that they're probably going to be able to run all over Seattle. This goes back to the he may not throw a lot. They may be up big, and it's like, well, if they're up big, it's probably because he threw quite a few touchdown passes. So.
yeah.
The minus 150 starting to get in that area of, not really. I don't really know. We'll do passing yards, but I will tell you that Joe Flacco to throw 2 touchdowns at plus 195 is enticing. We'll just say it's enticing to me. So let's get to passing yards here, though. I talked about Browning the touchdowns. I kind of like 232.5. I was on him last week. I mean, his total was what, 217? I think he had 354 yards. I didn't think he looked bad, so I would play him at 232. I don't think my Colts are slowing him down at all. Anything in this one, Corbin?
Not really, same kind of feeling as you. You could easily take another, because we took the ult the other week. You could probably, if you like Browning, you could always take an ult down to like 200 or 220 even to get it down a smidge. But yeah, I'm with you on Browning. The Colts secondary is still not very good. I think he could easily throw it around. So
Lions and Bears. You like any passing props in this one, Steve?
Lions and Bears. I don't. No, I don't have anything on that one.
I have Goff actually. I'm interested by this number. So it was around the 240 mark at the start of the week when I was looking. So he had 236 last time versus the Bears, but he played awfully for the first 3 quarters of that game. He did almost nothing pretty much, and then obviously had quite a few big throws and completions to end the game. For only a small increase, that's where I'm gonna look. But yeah.
Rams at the Ravens. Steve, Corbin and I were just mentioning it right before you got on here. Lamar Jackson to get 200 yards in the pouring rain? That seems pretty ambitious, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. The weather's a huge concern, obviously, for the passing attack. But I'm more looking the other way on the under on Stafford.
Mm.
I just think in the on the road, and then the Ravens are only allowing a couple hundred yards anyway. So this is kind of like where they are anyway. And then you got all the weather. It's not something I'm going to get to the window with, but I like the under there for both quarterbacks.
I like unders on that one too. I mean, wind is more obviously what you're worried about with weather, but this rain looks like it's just going to be so bad that you can't ignore it. So I think
And
a lot of
obviously,
running.
there's no Mark Andrews. That just as soon as I can take Mark Andrews away from the Ravens, that's another 40, 50 yards that I can take off what I was expecting them to get. He's just their
Yeah,
main target, so without him, it just makes life so much more difficult for Lamar. So
yeah. Lamar had 177 against the Chargers last game, like against the worst pass defense in the league. So
yeah,
interesting there. Texans at Jets. Corbin, your Zach Wilson line has actually moved up. You have people on your side. Corbin,
I do.
Corbin thinks Zach Wilson is going to go over his passing total. I love the bold call, but this was at 187. This is up here. So
Yeah,
give him the quick
it's
cliff notes.
it's sneaking up. So I still think it's a low total. He's over in his last 3 starts and 5 of his last 6 starts. With the one he went under was only 186, so only just sneaking under. The Texans have an awful passing defense, like awful. And then this is just a comeback game for him. He's got nothing to lose. He's got to prove a point to try and save what's left of his backup job or try and get a job somewhere else. The one concern is obviously the weather that we've mentioned that's now approaching, but even still at this low total, I like it. So
I would say there's another concern, Corbin, and that is that he told the Jets he didn't want to play. So
I think he's
I
going to
would
want to
list that.
play.
I would list that as another concern besides the rain. Uh,
As soon as he gets on the field, he isn't going to be thinking about not wanting to play until maybe he's sacked 10 times. He's flying around. And
Oh, I
he
don't
has.
think he's going to get sacked very much. I think you're going to see him throw the ball into the sidelines quite a few times tonight. I don't think he's going out there to get sacked. I don't even know if the Texans are going to be able to get to him in this weather. So, Steve, you like anything Texans and Jets or the Panthers Saints? Panthers Saints, Derek Carr. Can I tempt you with Derek Carr now that there's no Taysom Hill?
I'm actually leaning under there though,
Okay.
just because he's banged up and the Panthers' pass defense is solid. I rather run against the Panthers than throw, and I don't know if Carr being banged up, it's not something I'm going to get to the window with, but I like the under.
I really like Bryce Young under 178 and a half, actually. So he had 178 last week, and he was awful for most
Awful.
of that game. I know because we had an alt total over for him, and when he had like 20 yards at like midway through the second quarter, I was not having any kind of fun. And the Saints have a far better passing defense. He's just awful, quite honestly. I believed in him last week, and I'm certainly believing him to go under this week. So
Well, I watched that game, unfortunately, because we did have an all line, so I actually got to watch the Panthers offense.
you lucky
They
man.
do not trust him in this. It was the hurry up offense, and they handed the ball off twice in a row, 2 times in a row to Chuba. There was a minute left. It was the hurry up offense, and they're handing it off. That's how little they trust him. I'm with you on that one. Buccaneers at Falcons. Steve, you like any of these quarterback props?
It's a pass for me on this one.
Corbin, Ritter under, but man, the Bucks' pass defense is bad.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at because obviously I liked Ridder versus the Jets, but the Jets defense compared to the Buccaneers is highly it's so polar opposites, quite honestly, that at this point it almost looks like a low total. No one is going to bait me into betting on a Ridder over. I don't care if it's 100 or 150 yards, let alone 200. I just don't want to touch Ridder overs.
Jaguars and Browns. I will happily put my flag down on Flacco Island. Damn, I thought I was the only one. It was 195 the other day. Now it's 206. I actually wonder if this 206, this big move, this is a 10-yard, 11-yard move up. I wonder if it has to do with the weather because a couple days ago the weather looked like it was going to be way worse than it's going to be today. Flacco, 23 of 44 for 254 yards against the Rams. We just watched Browning throw for 354 against them. I actually thought Flacco didn't look too bad. His arm was fine. The long ball was fine. And this Jaguars team, you attack them through the air, and the Jaguars are terrible against receiving running backs. So little dump-off passes to those running backs. I love this play. I got to tell you, I really, really like this play. I think he flies over 206. Any opinion on this one, Steve?
Yeah, I'm with you on the over. If I had to go one way or the other, I would go over. He did look really good last week, and you're right. The way to get to the Jaguars is through the air. So I'm with you on the over for Flacco.
Seahawks and 49ers. Corbin, they got Purdy at 258.5. I'm assuming we've got some bets on other 49ers. Is there anything to do with Purdy here at this total?
No, I did look at it. For me, it's too high just because of the factors that we mentioned actually for his passing touchdowns. They could be up so much. Does he need to throw the ball? If I liked that, I've got a receiver prop for them. I'd rather go for just the receiver. Or if he's going to throw for 260 yards, I think they're going to win quite comfortably. So
Yeah.
I think there's better avenues to attack this game than the passing yards.
Yeah, they
So,
certainly used McCaffrey a lot in the last one. So
yeah.
Vikings at Raiders.
I really like Aiden O'Connell here.
Okay.
Sorry to butt in,
No, go
but
ahead.
he's over in the last two with 248 versus the Chiefs and 271 versus the Dolphins. The Chiefs are ranked 6th as the best passing defense. Dolphins are 9th. This is such a drop off. So it was at 217 down to 214 this week, but he's gone over that massively against two far better passing defenses. I mentioned I like some of the receivers in that game, but I really like that low total. So that's where I'm looking at.
Steve, you like O'Connell or Dobbs?
I lean over on O'Connell. Nothing on Dobbs though. Just a lean though. Nothing really concrete on that one.
Steve, Bills at Chiefs. I got to be honest, I found the Bills and Chiefs really hard. I thought the books nailed all the numbers. I could not find value. Do you like any of these quarterback props, Steve?
Yeah, not in this game. I don't like the quarterback props in this game. I was looking at Mahomes to throw a pick, just because he's been consistent. It's plus 100, and he's at home, so I'm just going to stay away from this one for passing props. I like things better in the next game, honestly.
I have an idea. Go ahead and talk about. Or Corbin, did you have any of those? What happens if we parlay both these guys to throw interceptions? Josh Allen has thrown an interception in 10 out of 12 games. Mahomes throwing. Can we do that? What are the interception numbers? They would have to be a same game parlay.
Yeah,
but,
I
plus
can
100 and minus 166. If you could somehow parlay those, I don't know. I kind of like it. Steve, I got to be honest. I didn't think about Mahomes to throw an interception, but
I mean, he's 8 of 12 for Mahomes, yeah, and like you said, 10 of 12 for Allen. So,
what? Yeah, plus 228 for both of these guys to throw an interception. I kind of like it.
And it's one of those games too where they're going to go toe to toe. It seems like I feel like it's going to turn into a high scoring game. It always seems to turn into a dramatic game when these two go. They always seem to meet each other at least once a year. They play each other, regardless.
Yeah.
So, and it always seems like a good game. And if one guy throws one, the other guy could throw one late trying to catch up.
Broncos and Chargers. Steve, you said you like this one. Which quarterback you looking at?
Yeah, I'm on Herbert's under 256.5 for passing yards. He's basically been 50-50 to this number. But if you look at the past couple of weeks, 212, 217, I think that they're going to move to Kelly, I guess, running the ball a little bit more instead of Eckler. But they just that run game is so weak that it seems like defenses are able to key in on the pass. And then you got Patrick Surtain. He can give Allen. Allen's gotten him the best of him once, but Surtain has gotten the best of him. It seems like the majority of the time. So I would look towards Herbert's under in that one. I mean, he's fallen like 40 yards short of it the last two games. So
Corbin, you like either of these guys?
I have nothing in that game.
Eagles and Cowboys, Prescott and Hurts. Wow, Dak Prescott. They moved him over 300. Makes sense. It's hard to. I'm not taking an under on Dak Prescott at 301. Steve, any of these get to the window on?
it's nothing to get to the window with. I lean over on Prescott as well, but that just the number's so big, it's not something that I would actually put a ticket
Yeah.
out on.
All right, let's take a look at the receiving props. Colts and Bengals. I don't know if I like Browning. I think I like Jamar Chase. 66.5 just seems kind of low on this one. Corbin, do you like any receiving props? Colts, Bengals?
Yeah, so I have two actually for this game. You just mentioned Jamar Chase. So the Colts are okay versus the pass and awful against the run, but Browning has looked decent, as we said in their last few. Chase has easily gone over in the last two with 81 versus the Steelers, 149 versus the Jags. We've mentioned the Colts secondary is not good. I think this is a really low total for Jamar Chase at 65.5. So yeah, that's where I'm looking for that. And then, of course, Hudson over 2.5 receptions.
Love
So,
him.
yeah, he's over in his last five with at least 4 every game, and we only need 2.5 here. He's the safety blanket for Browning. And they just seem to have a good rapport. So, I'll let you talk about maybe the snaps. Do you want to mention that point?
Yeah, sure. So he's a guy that doesn't have a ton of snaps. Like when you look at his percentage, it's not a ton. It's because he's not that much of a blocking tight end. Like when he comes in to catch passes. So last week he has 4 catches, but he only played 16% of snaps. The week before that, 30%. The week before that, 34%. Week before that, 31%. Week before, 23%. So he's not playing more. His max the last 5 games is 21 snaps. So that tells you when there's a running play, he's just not in there because he's not the blocker. But when it's a passing down and he's going to be running a route, yeah, he comes in. So it's kind of one of those like quality over quantity with the snaps. When he comes in, he's going to get a look. Great hands, doesn't have hardly any drops. And like you said, good rapport. So yeah, Tanner Hudson. This was plus money last week, this play. 2.5.
Yeah.
This was you could grab that at plus 110. Now it's minus 125. So Lions and Bears. Steve, do you like receiving props in this game?
I don't have any for this game, but I was looking at from the prior game just really quick.
Oh.
Pittman over 6.5 receptions. He's went over 5 straight games. He's at 8+ now in 5 straight games, and
Wow.
I would look. The only thing is that the Bengals, that run defense. I could see them exploiting the run defense, so that's the only reason I can't get to the window with it, and it is a pretty big number as well.
I didn't realize
But
he
it's
had that many catches. That's
yeah,
great
eight
stats.
plus 8+ last 5 games.
Lions and Bears. I like Jahmyr Gibbs receiving. This Bears team, I think they do a good job against David Montgomery. I think this is a Gibbs game all day long. Corbin, do you like any receiving props in this?
I'm with you on the Gibbs receiving. Other than that, I spent a long time looking at Cole Kmet. I think if I'm going to attack him, I think I like his receptions more than his yards here. But I've mentioned it. He's a good safety blanket for the Bears. I'm expecting they may need to throw this week. So at 3.5's right on the cusp. I might use like an alt line just to get it down by 1 reception. But that's where I'm looking.
Uh, Rams and Ravens. Steve, I keep coming back to you in this. I mean, if you like unders on the quarterbacks, don't you like unders on the receivers?
Yeah, you'd have to find one somewhere, but generally I like wrap it up into the quarterback when it's something like this, when it's like a weather concern or something like that. I don't have an individual player that I necessarily am going to get to the window with personally.
I agree with that assessment. Go with the quarterback and don't try and pick the receivers.
It's just one extra step.
All right, Texans at Jets. Corbin, you like Zach Wilson. Who's he going to throw to?
Well, there's only one man really who's going to be throwing to him. That's Garrett Wilson.
Tyler
Yeah.
Conklin. I'm with you. No.
Yeah. So Texans are 26th versus the pass. Wilson has cleared this in 6 straight till the last 3 messy games where they were changing quarterbacks, rotating. Who knows what they were doing the last 3 games? But I could easily see them getting back to that. Think it's down from 54 to 53.5 there. I really like it. It's such a low total. He could easily. It's not so much Wilson necessarily throwing to him. It's the run after the catch. He could easily get, like, say, a throw for 10 yards and then run for another 5 or 10. And they all add up. So that's where I'm looking at with that one. I have to also give a shout out to my arch nemesis of
Here we
Robert
go.
Woods,
There
who
you
is
go.
going to do absolutely nothing. If I could take an alt line on him not to do anything, I would. Unfortunately, I haven't found a book that offers me 0 yards yet, but if anyone could recommend, I will 5% that play. So
I mean, there's props out on Nico Collins and Noah Brown. So Robert Woods is down. Remember when the year started? And, like, Robert Woods' longest reception was 17.5. Now this
yeah,
is just his total.
yeah. Even the books have caught onto it. So it's not hard to catch onto it. He's not running fast anywhere. So
Panthers and Saints. What are we doing receiving wise in this one, Steve?
I'm looking towards Kamara at 38.5. I think he's gonna, Carr, like I mentioned, Carr being banged up, and he seems like he'd be a good safety blanket, obviously, for him in this one, and I would look towards him as at over 38.5 receiving yards.
With no Taysom Hill, I mean, there's 7 to 10 more snaps that he's going to be involved with, or that Carr is going to dump it off with. So I agree with that one. This Chris Olave not feeling well is kind of concerning. I don't know about the 67.5.
seems awfully high.
Yeah, for a guy that's sick, but it is the Panthers. I don't know, Corbin, you like anything?
Other than Olave under, probably not. I'm more on the rushing props for that game. So
Buccaneers at Falcons. Steve, we did one of the stats of the day this week was Deron Bland has 5 interception returns for touchdowns this season, and Kyle Pitts has 4 touchdowns for his career. So, boy, they've really, really bumped this Mike Evans lineup. 75.5. I feel like his touchdown prop is probably the best way to go. But Steve, do you like anything Buccaneers Falcons?
Yeah, I got a couple actually. I'm looking at Drake London's over 49.5 receiving yards. Bucks allow 7th most receiving yards to wide receivers, and he's went over in his last 4 home games. He seems like he's thriving at home. And against the Bucks, he's went over in 2 of his last 2 of 3 games against the Bucks, 54, 120, and he fell just short. 35 isn't just short, but he's just going over in all of his home games. And the other one here is I'm looking at Cade Otton over 25.5 receiving yards. He's went over in 5 of his last 7 games, and he's had 43 twice against the Falcons. The interesting thing here is his reception line is now up to, it was 2.5 with a lot of juice. Now it's at 3.5 at plus money. So they're expecting him to have 3+ receptions, right? And the Falcons have allowed 14 of the last 15 games to have their opposing tight end to have 3+ receptions. So if he gets the 3+ receptions, he's going to go over the receiving yards. So I like Otten over 25.5 receiving.
Great stat. Great stat on Cade Otton. Good stuff on that one. Let's take a look at the Jaguars and the Browns. Amari Cooper is here. I don't know. David Njoku, possibly. I don't know. I'm just gonna pass on the receiving props for the Browns, and like you said, Steve, wrap it up in the quarterback. So I'll just take Flacco, and I'm not going to dick around with any of the receivers. So nothing yet here on the Jaguars receivers. So we'll just move on to the Seahawks and 49ers. Corbin, you mentioned possibly taking some receivers in this one.
yes, so the one I'm looking at is Debo Samuel over 50.5. So he's over in 3 straight, including 79 versus the Seahawks in their last meeting on 7 receptions. Seahawks are 23rd against the pass. I think he's really slotting back into this number wide receiver 2 role behind Ayuk, surprisingly. But he's catching so many deep passes that he could easily get this total in 2 or 3 receptions, and he had 7 the last time they met. So that's where I'm looking.
Steve, you like any receiving props? Seahawks 49ers?
This one's a pass for me.
I kind of like Charbonnet over 11.5. He had 39 yards. He had a 39-yard catch last week, and I know Kenneth Walker's back, but this guy had 4 catches against the 49ers. Now, he didn't do much with it, but 4 catches on 4 targets. This is one of those totals where he only needs one decent little play to get over
Does
there.
the injury concern bother you at all with Charbonnet? He was one of the ones you mentioned at the start of the show.
Yeah, I always gravitate towards these receiving props from running backs where I only need one catch, one little dump
Yeah.
off. We hit it with
AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon. Yeah, he only had one catch, but that total was so low. It was like 11 and a half, and he had a 14-yard, and it wasn't even a planned screen pass. It was, Jordan Love scrambles out. Oh, there's the running back. So I like these totals at 11 and a half. Vikings and Raiders. Hunter Renfrow, Corbin. No, I'm just kidding. Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson. We have to talk about Justin Jefferson. So full disclosure, we put out Justin Jefferson as a client play when the line was 65.5.
Yeah.
I don't remember an aggressive move like this unless it was, I don't know, unless something weird. There's some injury or something. I don't know. But Jefferson opens up 65.5. Now he's at 74.5. I hate playing these plays after we miss the line movement. That being said, I don't know. I'm not taking an under on this one. So, Jefferson and Adams, these are the big ones. Steve, anything else you're looking at?
Nothing other than those two. Like you mentioned, Adams. I love him in this one. He's went over his last 3 with O'Connell at quarterback, 86, 82, 73. Vikings struggling with top options, and I would, I don't know. He's also a different time, different team, but he's carved them up when he was with the Packers. So I don't know if that pertains to this game, but 100 plus in 5 of 6 last 6 games with the Packers. So,
Corbin, anything else to add to this game?
Well, only the Justin Jefferson. I was just wondering actually if you could flick to the receptions. I want to see if his receptions have changed since where his yards have skyrocketed. Obviously, everyone knows I like to play players coming back from injury. So this is a similar spot to me to A-Chain. If he's fit to go, then I think he's going to be back to full production. And it looks like I think his receptions was at 5.5 at the start of the week. So it looks like they've moved that one as well. So
yeah, it's 5.5 juice. Now it's 6.5.
Yeah.
And even money. So
I wouldn't be taking 6.5 if I had to pick between the two. I think I'd go with still the receiving yards, but again, as soon as it moves that much, it kind of like you feel like you've lost any value even by playing it. So
I had to laugh. The Vikings when they were like, well, Dobbs, I don't know, man. He had a bad week last week. If you're Dobbs, you're like, really? You're going to bench me the week that we bring Justin Jefferson back because you said I wasn't effective? Like, could you just give me one game with Justin Jefferson?
Right.
I got a sneaky suspicion he might actually play pretty good. So silly. Bills at Chiefs. I mean, look at all these players they have listed for receptions. I mean, these guys, Allen and Mahomes would have to throw for 500 yards each to get all these guys over. So obviously Pacheco out. I don't know if we're looking at receiving props for this one. I mentioned Dalton Kincaid maybe go under just because you got Dawson Knox back, but I just can't get to the window on any of these receivers in this game. Steve, am I crazy?
Yeah, it's nothing I'm going to get to the window with, but I would. Did you mention Shakir under? Is that what you just mentioned? Was it?
No,
someone else?
I said Dalton Kincaid, but I get what you're saying with Shakir, 31.5 here.
Yeah, because when Knox is out there, his target share goes way down. So I could see it looking towards under for Shakir out of these guys tonight.
I'm going to go against you, Steve. I'm going to go Shakir over. So his production,
I like it.
His production has skyrocketed recently. He's over in 5 of the last 6. This is a must-win game for the Bills. Not sure what's going on with Stephon Diggs, and Gabe Davis is like all over the place. He's boom or bust. He can literally have 1 or 2 catches, or he could have 5 or 6. But at such a low total, I really like Shakir over 31.5. So I'll go head to head with you, Steve, on that one. So
see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, when you got Buffalo Bills and must win, you always think Khalil Shakir has got to be the big one there. That's what I've always said. So, Broncos and Chargers. I kind of like Jerry Jeudy here, 43.5. He doesn't get a ton of catches. When he does pretty decent with yards after catch. Terrible pass defense. I thought the Chargers got away with one when they played Baltimore. I like fading this team in the passing. I don't know if I wanted to take Russell Wilson over because Russell Wilson doesn't seem to get over his passing total, but I kind of like Judy. I think I could see like 4 catches for 60 yards in this one. Like I could see like one catch where he's wide open, where the Chargers absolutely blow the coverage, and just like he's just wide open. They completely missed it. So you got Keenan Allen at 84. Poor Keenan Allen, man. His shoulders messed up. His back hurts from carrying the receivers. Quentin Johnston can't catch a ball. I mean, it's just what a
Now
mess.
he's got to deal with Patrick. Now he's got to deal with Patrick Surtain.
Yeah. Steve, do you like Steve? You going under on Keenan?
I would look that way. I wouldn't go over on him today. That's a big number to me against Surtain. I'm more looking towards Sutton though. 56.5 seems like an awful low number against this Chargers defense. He's went over in his last 3 games, and I'm with you. I looked towards Russell Wilson when I saw that low number on the Russell Wilson passing yards. I was like, oh boy, this is because we know the Chargers every quarterback had went over until Lamar and then Zappy. But they're going to come. The quarterback's going to get over eventually again, but Russ just can't. He doesn't have a ton of passing yards, so I would look towards Sutton over 56.5. Seems like a really low number for him to me.
Corbin, you like any of these guys or dislike them?
I am going to follow the Sutton trend, but I'm going to play it in a different way. So I'm going to go Sutton longest reception. I think it's at 21 or 22.5. He only really seems to catch these deep balls, and he's gone over his longest very often. So these are his longest totals: 45, 31, 33, 30, 23, 33, and 21. I feel like if I like Sutton to go over, I feel like he has to go over this longest reception to get there. Chargers defense is awful against the pass, so I'm going to take Sutton over 21 or 22.5 longest reception.
All right, Eagles at Cowboys receivers. This is either going to be a treasure trove for the bettors, or something weird happens and the books just make a killing on everyone taking these overs. Man, this is so. Let's take a look at receiving yards here for the Eagles and the Cowboys. I've been gravitating towards the Cowboys all week. I think I'm going to stick with Jake Ferguson as my favorite, 44.5. Guy had 91 yards against the Eagles last time, and you just look at his production, and where his production comes in is when they're in shootouts. And is at home. I love this one, and I am stunned that CeeDee Lamb isn't at 100 yards. I'm stunned. He had 191 yards against this Eagles team. They're at home. They're on the fast track. So I like CeeDee Lamb. I like Ferguson, and of course I like Dak over. Steve, anything else receiving-wise in this one?
I don't have anything other than that. I was going to mention CeeDee Lamb as well. It's just such a big number. It's not something I would actually get to the window with, but I do lean over on him based on, like you said, how he crushed the Eagles last time. So I would lean over on Lamb.
Against this Eagles
Yeah, I know.
team?
Now that we're seeing like Hill, come out at over 100 on a week-to-week basis, and he's just going over, consistently too. And yeah, like you said, the Eagles' pass defense. Yeah, I mean, if you like Ferguson though, I kind of I like taking the smaller numbers personally.
I gotcha. Corbin, you like receivers in this one? Your Brandon Cooks line got bumped up.
Yes.
12.5 from last week.
Yeah, crazy increase on Cooks. I actually think all these numbers are probably in the right kind of areas. Again, I was looking at Ferguson. To me, it's too high of a number on some of these guys. They're not always the most consistent. And that's why we'll get to it in the same game parlay section. That's why I'm going to go for a few alts, but I can't get to the window on any of them.
We're going to break down the rushing props, then we're going to give out alt lines, parlays, same game parlays, anytime touchdown, and our best bets. Rushing yards, I'll get to Joe Mixon in my best bet. Zach Moss, 74.5. He didn't have a great game last week, but Corbin, think he gets there against the Bengals, or did the books properly move this line to the right number?
I think it's the right number. So obviously he started the season really well, and then Jonathan Taylor came back, and it kind of tailed off. I really liked him last week, and he didn't get there. I like him this week, but again, it's too high of a number for me to trust someone like Zach Moss personally.
The Lions and the Bears, Steve, a lot of running backs. The Bears are apparently going to start 3 running backs and Justin Fields. We have Dante Foreman.
So 4 running backs, yeah.
And Roshan Johnson. That's crazy. So, anything rushing wise jump out, or is there just too many people here?
I like the Fields over. He goes.
My man.
He rips the Lions. He had 104, 18 for 104 already this season. Last season, 147 and 132. And the Lions lost a good run stopper. Alan McNeil went out. He's a good run stopper for the Lions, and that's going to affect them today. When you look at a quarterback in the NFL, 62.5 seems like a high total, but Fields has been running all over them, and I expect him to do it again today. And just circling back really quick to the Bengals game, I like another quarterback over in that one. Browning over 11.5 rushing yards. Since he's started, he's averaged 23.7 a game, and Colts allowing 4th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks. 8 of the last 13 quarterbacks have went over 13 plus against the Colts, so I like Browning's over.
I like that too. I'm with you on Fields. I had that one circled to begin the week. Corbin, do you like any of these other running backs in Lions and Bears?
No, the only one I can really get there with is Justin Fields again. Don't know if you can pull it up, but I wonder what his longest rush is.
Sure.
I don't know if you can.
Longest rush is 17.5.
I could easily, yeah. I feel like that's equally a good player. We just mentioned that he tortures the Lions. I don't feel like 17.5 is a particularly long rush for him, because as soon as he breaks that initial line, I feel like he could easily get into the mid-20s for a longest. So
Yeah, we like Justin Fields in that one. Rams at Ravens. Steve, you were saying you like Kyron Williams. 71.5. Wow, big number. Are you gonna get there with any of these guys?
Kyron Williams, I'm that's not something I have for today, but just really quick on that longest rush, Corbin. He had 29. Fields had 29 against the Lions earlier this year, but he had 60 and 67 longest last season against them. So he actually essentially cleared the rushing total on one rush against them last season. Crazy. Yeah, but that game's a pass for me though.
Okay. Rams and Ravens. Corbin, you gonna like any of these running backs in this rainy, messy game?
No, I mentioned before that I initially liked Kyron Williams under 67.5. I like him under 71.5. It's just the weather. The weather really puts me off making it an actual play. If it was normal conditions, I could get there. I can't get there with the weather conditions. So
Texans and Jets, I kind of like Breece Hall under 44.5. Texans pretty good rush defense, bad pass defense. That being said, I am not going to play anything in this game. Steve, I'm assuming you're passing in this one.
Yeah, the weather has me passing as well.
Corbin, rushing props in this one?
I liked Pierce and Singletary because I think Stroud may struggle against the pass defense of the Jets. I can't pick one is my problem. I don't want to take both of them this week, like I've mentioned before, and I don't feel like I can pick one with strong enough decision. I may look at like the rush attempts, but I can't get there with the totals that they've got at the minute. So
Panthers and Saints. Steve, Kamara rushing or Chuba Hubbard rushing? Any of these guys?
No, it's a pass for me on this one. I just feel like there's better spots.
Buccaneers and Falcons. Corbin, Bijan Robinson, Desmond Ritter. I kind of like Desmond Ritter over 12.5. He tends to run quite a bit.
Yeah, I have nothing for this game. I was trying to work out what to do with Tyler Algier. I know he's one of your love childs, but I can't do anything with him at 30.5 except maybe an under. So
okay. Jaguars and Browns. I love, you guys know I love fading this Browns defense. They've given up over to opposing running backs, and yet I can't do it with Travis Etienne. They just did not give him a lot of work last week, so I'll pass on this game. Seahawks and 49ers. Steve, Christian McCaffrey, 81.5. Is this too obvious?
Yeah, it seems a little bit too obvious. I obviously we all like the 49ers to be leading in this one, and It's not something. It's not something I'm actually gonna play though. So it's kind of a pass for me on this one.
Vikings and Raiders. I like Madison under. You got Justin Jefferson back. And the Raiders are much better against the run than they are against the pass. Corbin, you like any of these guys?
I was looking at Josh Dobbs. It was really weird. So obviously started out his Vikings games. I think it was at low 20s. I think we took it one week and he went over. I think, and then they suddenly started bumping it up all the way up into the 30s, and now it's plummeting back down to earth. Oh, it's kind of in that area. If it was like 21, 22, I could see an over. 25 is still just out of my range, so probably a pass.
All right, Bills at Chiefs. Steve, do you like any of these rushing props on this? No Pacheco, so it's kind of hard to figure out. I guess it would be Edwards-Helaire, but kind of feels like it's much more of a Mahomes game, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about in my best bet. But I also like James Cook over 11.5 rushing attempts. I
Okay.
kind of don't understand the line. He's went over in his last three, 16, 17, 12, and he's went over in 10 of 12 games on the season. It seems like, I mean, they're going to need some sort of balance in this game, and I feel like the running game is, the way, kind of a good way to get at the Chiefs as opposed to throwing on them. But I mean, he's just cleared it on a consistent basis, and it's only 11.5, so I would look over on Cook
I
I
would
for
really
assume
rushing
that
attempt.
they're expecting a shootout here, and that's probably why they're expecting Allen to throw more. Maybe that's the only
I,
thinking that I have as to why his rushing attempts are so low.
it's
Steve,
I
stunningly
agree. I
low.
agree, but someone's got to carry. Yeah, I agree, but someone's got to carry the ball here. They're going to have to run the ball a little bit, and I know, Allen is probably going to take away some runs as well. You know what I mean? Whether it be whether a broken play or his number gets called, but with a number that low, I like Cook over.
I like James. I'm glad you brought up James Cook. I think he's going to be a big weapon in this game. Rushing plus receiving. I haven't done this category very often, but when I've done it, I've done pretty good with Rashad White. James Cook, 71.5 rushing plus receiving. Against Philly, he had 43 rushing and 57 receiving. Against the Jets, 73 rushing and 29 receiving. Against Denver, 109 rushing. He's getting this done. He's getting this number done through both sides. So maybe it's one of those things where I said with Rashad White, I don't know what category he's going to do it in, but I think it's going to be both. So I would look at James Cook here, rushing and receiving, or the rush attempts. I agree, Steve. I didn't look at the rush attempts, but that's glaring. And the
Yeah,
Eagles, 16 against the Eagles, which is a great rush defense.
yeah, it just seems awful low. He like three in a row, and he's not. It's not like he's just sneaking by either. The last two, especially with the 16 and the 17. So he doesn't. It's not going to take much for him to go over in that one.
Broncos and Chargers, Austin Eckler, 49.5. I have a couple of sneaky insider tips here, guys. When you know that a running back is not looking good, like if there's an injury or when his coach come out and says we're going to split time, like eye test, he's not right. I don't think he's old. I think he's hurt, and I think the Chargers know that. So I don't know. Austin Eckler rushing yards. There is no chance I'm taking the over. You're going to need him to bust a big one, and I know the Broncos are on the season the worst rush defense, but he had a good matchup last week and was horrific in it. So I love the under here. He's not getting it done. He doesn't look good. This is a Chargers team that is on the verge of being completely out of everything. So that's the only play I got rushing one in this one. Corbin,
nothing from me on this one.
Steve,
Yeah, I'm with you. I lean under on Eckler as well, just because of what you said about them. The talk of them splitting carries now.
Eagles and Cowboys. Steve, you like any rushing props in this one?
This one's a pass for me.
Corbin, Tony Pollard, under.
Well, I'll mention it when I get to the same game parlay. I'm not
Okay.
expecting Tony Pollard to have a great game, no, but I'll save that for next section.
All right. So speaking of the next
Actually, sorry. Before we move on, can I just mention one field goal or two field goal props?
Field goal prop. Yes.
Yes. So interestingly, they're both in the same game. I like the Bucks and the Falcons both over 1.5 field goals.
Okay.
So the Falcons are the best red zone defense. The Bucks are the fourth best red zone defense. I'm expecting this to be a really close game. Obviously lots of field goals, not particularly high scoring. In their recent matchup, which was only a month or so ago, the Falcons had 3 field goals and the Bucks had 2. I feel like you could quite easily take both of these. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with the Falcons and Young Wei Koo because I trust him more. He's a guy that I've been riding for a few years. But yeah, I like both of those to go over 1.5 field goals.
Love it. Love it. So, all right, guys, hit the like button. Tell us your best bet for today. Don't forget to check us out at wagertalk.com. Don't forget to check out Steve at sportsmemo.com. Corbin, coming to you first. We got your same game parlay. I love that you picked this game. I'm very happy that you didn't pick like Colts Bengals or anything. So walk us through this Eagles Cowboys and what you like for a same game parlay.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at the slate, this one just stands out as the same game parlay opportunity. There's a couple others that I looked at, but this to me just is a resounding yes. So we mentioned we expect the Cowboys to thrive here. The Eagles defense looks exhausted. Pollard, so the first piece is Pollard under 92.5 rushing. So he's only gone over this in one game this year, which is against the Cardinals, who play no defense, and he got 122. The Eagles are actually really good against the rush, held him to 51 in their head-to-head. So we'll take that as kind of a to bring down the juice on the next 2 parts. So Dak over 250 passing yards. He's over in 6 of 7, with the one that he went under was the Panthers blowout where he just didn't need to play. He had 374 versus the Eagles, and they have the 29th worst passing defense. And that kind of then links into the next part, which is CD Lamb over 71.5 receiving yards. So obviously, he's the clear wide receiver one. He's where Dak looks every time he's going to throw the ball. He's over in 5 of 7, but obviously the 2 that he went under were the blowouts where they just didn't play him. And you mentioned he had 191 versus the Eagles last game. So wrap all of that up for minus 155.
I have Tony Pollard on my big money fantasy team, and if you would have told me that he rushed for under 92.5 yards on the season, I would have paused and thought you might be like onto something there. He's been terrible. I don't know that injury. Maybe the injury just was way more affecting him to start the year, but he has not gotten on track. And what's weird is he kind of has long rushing yard, like 16, 27, 22, 15, 15, 13. So he does have these bursts every once in a while, but this Cowboys offense, it is all about Dak Prescott now. So, all right, let's talk about Corbin. I always default to you on the alt universe. I got to tell you, I think you're crazy. I think you're insane this week. But
Okay. So
go ahead.
No music.
Someone make some music for me.
My iPad reset and it lost all of my drops. So
Oh no!
it's going to be an exhaustive effort to try and get all those back.
Yeah.
So, all right,
I will
walk
just
us.
so last week's one I think hit pretty easily. I think all the
did.
parts hit really easy, quite honestly. So this week we've got the Jets plus 13 against the Texans, the Bills plus 10.5 to the Chiefs, and the Dolphins minus 2.5. So we'll start off with the Jets. So the Jets still have a great defense. They're just not getting completely blown out by these teams that are just not very good. The Texans, to me, are going to struggle today. I think Stroud's going to struggle against the passing against this defense. And then if we mentioned with the rushing totals for Pearson, Singletary, I think they'll have some success, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get like this much ahead of the Jets. I mentioned I'm expecting both the Wilsons to have a good comeback game. The Texans are far too reliant on the pass for my liking. And the last 8 games the Texans have been involved in have only been 1 score, so they're just not blowing these teams away. And the Jets have, as I mentioned, been keeping so many games close, even if they're still losing. The Bills plus 10.5. This is just a must-win spot for the Bills. We saw it against the Eagles. I thought they played quite well against the Eagles. Probably on the balance of play deserve to actually win that game. But also, just like the Texans, the Chiefs are just not covering these spreads. So they've only covered this total in one of the last 5, and that was to the Raiders, who lost by 14, but they're, to me, far worse than the Bills, particularly on offense. The last 3 head-to-heads, the Bills have won 2 and lost one of them in overtime. And this year, the Bills haven't lost by more than 10 to anyone. So we'll take the Bills plus 10.5. And then to me, this is the easiest piece. The Dolphins minus 2.5 versus the Titans. I don't have to harp on about it too much. I just think it's going to be an easy win. Titans are on a slide, have nothing really to play for. So expecting the Dolphins to have a field day all over offense. So
All right, Jets.
which
Plus
bit are you concerned with? Which bit don't you like?
I want to
would
know
not-
that too because I like it.
Oh, I wouldn't touch the Jets with a 10-foot pole. No chance.
With the weather, I just feel like the 13 gives you the cushion, and the other two, I can't. I love both of those other two legs. So
Yeah, I like the Bills. The Chiefs aren't blowing anybody out. And without Pacheco, I think without Pacheco, that's a real problem for them. Their receivers are
Yeah.
non-existent outside of Rice, so I think it makes their offense a little bit easier to defend. So I get that one. I get the Dolphins.
I will
You have-
say, obviously,
You have a
I've said this-
quarterback who literally said he didn't want to play. That's amazing.
Hey, I think he's going to have a great game, as I've said. But so, in this example, say you still like the Bills 10.5 and the Dolphins 2.5. There's so many other pieces you can go and put it with.
For sure.
You don't have, like we've mentioned, you could probably go and put it with a 49ers alt total or what other name springs to mind. I like the Panthers even to cover 20. You could get the Panthers plus 20 versus the Saints. There's so many other options if you don't like one particular piece, but yeah, I like the Jets this week.
Well, there's a reason why you do this segment and not me. So I always default to you. So whatever. All right, Steve. Anytime touchdown scores. You set the bar high last week. We're gonna need this pay dirt parlay to cash in the first half of the first quarter this week. But no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Talk
we-
about.
There's expectations on you now, Steve. Everyone's
Yeah.
tuning in, and they want this one within 5 minutes of the start.
Let's go.
So,
It's the second quarter. Hasn't cashed
Yeah.
yet, people. All right. Who do you like to score a touchdown this week?
Yeah, so Hill, Henry, and Laporta got the job done for us last week. And just really quick, did you guys see the McCaffrey line this week?
What is it?
It's the highest negative 390. It's going to be the highest anytime touchdown line in the history of the world, right? It has to be. It has to be, right? Negative 390. Who's playing that?
he's still going to get there.
He's gonna, but who's gonna play that? Even as a parlay piece. But anyway. So Montgomery, he's my favorite. He's my favorite guy this week. He's every game that he started and finished, he scored in, and that's 9 of 10
Wow.
overall. Yeah, it's 9 of 10 overall, and the only game he didn't score in was against Tampa Bay. So a stout run defense in Tampa Bay. Guys know I love a good revenge spot. Bears, he's going up against his old team. And they're a tough run defense, but I feel like the weather favors his style in this one, and I feel like if they get inside the red zone, he's going to be scoring. So give me Montgomery to start. Cortland Sutton has scored in 9 of 12 games on the season in 6 of his last 7. We know the Chargers have a lousy pass defense, and Sutton's leading his team across the board: receptions, yards, touchdowns, anything receiving. He's leading the way. Chargers pass D allowing the second most yards, 8th most touchdowns to opposing wideouts. Tyreek Hill is kind of like basically unstoppable right now, right? I mean, he's unstoppable when you watch him. He scored in 10 of 12 games now on the season. Titans pass D is another weak defense to pick on. They've allowed the 6th most receiving touchdowns to wideouts, 5th most yards. And then I love this Patrick Mahomes one. So he hasn't scored yet this season, but every game, every season prior to that, he scored 2 exactly, except for last year where he scored 4. We just saw the Bills get completely shredded by Jalen Hurts. 14 carries, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mahomes is over in 4 of 6 of I'm not over. I'm sorry. He runs more at home. He runs more in bigger games. He's going to risk himself more in these bigger games. And then you mentioned earlier, no Pacheco, so that takes away an option in the running game, and the receivers are having trouble getting open. So I feel like this is, and I'll get into it more in my best bet. I kind of just crossed wires there with my best bet, but Mahomes, the Bills have been allowing more and more yards to opposing quarterbacks on the ground in the second half of the season with the injuries and stuff like that. And this price is just too good to pass up, in my opinion, on Mahomes. I almost put him into the pay dirt parlay, and I felt like I was almost getting a little bit greedy. I could see adding him to it or, replacing one of these guys with it, but play it safe. Let's go Montgomery, Sutton, Hill at plus 550. That's the official one for this week.
I love that Cortland Sutton at plus 120. I think that's the best. I know there's a there's a guy at CBS podcast who's he's like Cortland Sutton cannot continue to catch a touchdown on every like on 12% of his targets, and he just keeps doing it. He's their red zone target. Like he is their like it's like the Travis Kelce. Like it's like when they get inside the 10-yard line and it's 3rd and goal from the 8, you know who the ball's going to, and I feel like it's Cortland Sutton for the Broncos. So I love that Cortland Sutton one.
Also,
and
helped
it gets that pass defense too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if
Okay.
he's catching those long passes, I mentioned it earlier. If like the chances are, like he's breaking the defense, he could easily. Yeah, he doesn't need to just do it in the red zone. So.
Yeah, I love that one, Steve. So let's cash that pay dirt parlay. Let's make it 2 in a row here. So.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, it is time for 3 NFL best bets. So please hit the like button, leave us a comment, tell us what your best bet is. And yes, Corbin, I know I missed the banner at the beginning of the show. Thank you. I just read that. 3 NFL best bets. I like Joe Mixon over 64.5 rushing. This is a Colts team that has given up 156 yards rushing per game the last 3. This defense is a shell of itself. We don't even have Darius Leonard anymore. He's not even on the team. So not only is he injured, he's injured on another team. That's how bad the rush defense has gotten here. And Joe Mixon, I know he got over his total late last week, but that was against the Jags, who are they're the 5th best rush defense in yards allowed per game this year. He had 68 last week, 69 against Baltimore. You got Jake Browning, who looked great last week, but I think this is a Joe Mixon game. I think they run all over the place. So give me Mixon as my best bet. Steve, you've mentioned Patrick Mahomes. Let's take us over rushing, right?
Yeah, this is a client play for me. Actually, I'll let the cat out of the bag on one of the player props, and it's moved to 29.5, but I still like it at that number. Mahomes this goes hand in hand with the touchdown prop as well. He's went over in 4 of 6 home games. The 2 games he didn't go over, he lands on 28 and 24. So he's right there. He's obviously more comfortable running at home. He's averaged 27.5 per game on the season, so he's just short of this total on the year. We talked about Jalen Hurts last week. He ran last game against the Bills. He ran all over them, 2 touchdowns, 65 yards on 14 carries. Again, no Pacheco, so that takes an option away from the running game. The receivers are struggling to get open, and I expect him to break on a lot of these plays when he has to, especially in a big competitive game here against the Bills. This just sets up for a spot for him to run, in my opinion. And then the big part here is the Bills' run defense against opposing quarterbacks. First half of the season, 14.6 per game against quarterbacks. Second half, quarterbacks have run for 28.8 per game. Part of that's the competition, a lot of pocket passes early in the year. But guys, anyone with any sort of athletic ability has went over their rushing total against the Bills this season. Russell Wilson had 30 yards. Just not this number, but they went over their own number against them. So give me Mahomes over rushing yards today with a lot of confidence. I love this play.
Corbin, you're going back to your same game parlay. You went over it earlier. Just reiterate a couple of the talking points.
Yeah, so obviously it's Pollard under 92.5. He's only cleared it versus the Cardinals. Don't expect a whole lot of running or production from him. And then Prescott, 250 passing yards, and Lamb over 71.5, kind of both tied together. Lamb's the wide receiver one. They've both torched the Eagles, both great at home, so expecting both of them to soar over those totals. So
love it. There's your best bets, guys. Don't forget to go get the 5% play over at WagerTalk.com. You can find Steve over at SportsMemo.com. Good luck on all your plays, everyone. I think it's a very, very bettable card today, and then we've got a couple games tomorrow. So we're going to go over in depth tomorrow on the Monday Night Football games, and we are going to have more than one play for tomorrow's games. Love the games. Love the slate tomorrow. So good luck on all your plays. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this Sunday morning, and we will see everyone tomorrow on the Road to Millions.
good luck.
Good luck, guys.